Hello, welcome to Juhl Media live interview podcast. My name is Ching Juhl. I'm a concert violist and a filmmaker. Today, my special guest is Jams Orosz. And let's welcome James. Hi, James.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for being with me.
Oh,
And
well,
you
thank you
look
for having me.
you look so wonderful.
Thank you. My name is James Orosz. I'm also a Sister of Perpetual Indulgence. My name is Sister J.F.B, but people just call me Sister Bubbles.
Yes. So tell us a little bit who are the sisters?
Well, the Sisters started in 1979, and we've just grown as an international organization. I'm actually part of the Cleveland Rock and Roll City Sisters, and we've been around, I think it was close to 2013 is when we really got going, and we became a fully professed house. I think it was in 2015.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So yeah, and tell us your makeup so perfect and so beautiful. And can you walk us a little bit? How do you do this, and how long does it take?
Well, this was a rush job today. It took me about an hour. I just got off work. If it was perfectly and flawless, I would have hidden the wrinkles a little bit more. but yes, as sisters, we in Cleveland, we're a white face house, so we encourage everyone to play with the white face. It's a blank canvas, as we say, and you get to paint your personality. When I first started painting my face, I would use blues because I was like, oh, I'm Sister Bubbles. I want to be like a bubble. But I found I liked the reds and the yellows and the warmer colors. So we start with a blank canvas. And then how I go from there is once I get the white face done with the cream and the powder and the gluing the eyebrows down, I will then outline my eyes. And then from there, I just start adding color. And then when the color's done, I add glitter because, glitter hides all the flaws. Then I'll go in and I'll clean up when all of that's done, and I'll darken the beard again with a little bit of mascara. It's a leather trick too. Don't let the old leather guys fool you when they have a darker beard. They're probably using mascara, but don't tell them I told you. And then I just finish off with the lips, and here we are.
Wow, it's an art. Very nice. Very nice.
Every sister has a very unique face. We
Mhm.
had a sister in our house who her name was Rachel Profile. She passed away this year, and she used to do half white face, and she was a black gay man, and you knew who she was when she walked out. You knew her face. It was so iconic, and that's part of the artistic expression that we have is a sister by their face.
So, what is the main message behind calling yourself sister? Is it kind of like a rebellion because sisters, nuns, they are religious people? You want to be sister, sort of you're against this mainstream religious, iconic name.
So we're not anti-religion. We're not anti anything. If anything, we're anti. It's bigotry. The sisters started in 1979, and I believe Sister Vish was in possession of a couple habits from an actual. I'm blanking on what they call the convent. They actually got real nuns' habits, and they used it for a play, I guess, in Sound of Music in was it Indiana, I think it was Indiana. I'm still trying to remember all of the history because there's so much. But when they came to California, they went out, I think, the Saturday before Easter, and three of them went out, did whiteface, wore the habits from from the musical they had left over, and it was a huge hit. So back then, you were also dealing with religious persecution that the religious groups were anti-gay, putting people in conversion therapy, condemning people for just being who they were. And the sisters sort of resonated with people who were dealing with stigmatic guilt. So the sisters kind of just blew up because you were dealing with people who were dealing with all this religious repression. And that's why we try and promulgate stigmatic guilt. We try and fill people's lives with joy, and we're trying to rid the world of AIDS and the stigma that comes from it.
Excellent, excellent. So, James, tell us a little bit about where you were born and your background, please.
So, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. I've lived here all of my life, and my background is a middle-class family. My father owned his own business. He was an auto body mechanic. So he, very rugged, no idea of gay culture, nothing like this growing up. And I actually have an identical twin brother, and he's straight. So you have a very weird dynamic, of two kids being brought up the exact same way in this middle-class family, and one ends up being gay. Oh, sorry, that might be my cat that you might be here in the background. But one was gay, and the other one's straight.
Mhm.
So, we grew up in a very middle class, family that we never had anything in our face about the LGBT community. I didn't even know anything about it before I came out.
When you say came out, meaning you tell the world, you are gay, you like boys, right? When you say
Well,
came out.
well, I think coming out, you can come out to somebody. Like I can come out to you and say, I'm a proud gay man. But in another sense, coming out was coming out to myself, having that self realization that, oh my God, I'm gay. All these things that I was thinking about that I had no answer for, it now makes sense because I, for years, had thoughts, but I never put them together. I dated girls, I was with girls, just never knew what these things were. And then I see this movie that I was just drawn to. It was called Get Real, and it came out in 1999. And when I saw that, it clicked, and I'm like, oh my God, all these feelings and thoughts I had, it's because I'm gay.
So for those of us, or for those of the people, if they think gay people, it's all in their head, and so can you explain to us a little bit from a physiology point of view, or like it's not in your head, right?
So, I always say the only thing in your head, the only thing that is acceptance is accepting yourself. But to choose to be this way, I never made that choice. And the thing is, why would anyone choose to want to be persecuted against or be hated against? No one wants to be not liked. So growing up, it wasn't a choice of, oh, I'm going to choose to be gay. It was just the choice of, oh, this is who I am. Do I choose to accept it? And it was that self acceptance is the only choice that I ever made. But it could be genetics. I mean, I don't have the answers to why, my brother's straight and I'm gay. We were both, in the same womb at the same time, raised the same way, we were almost inseparable. So at some point, something took over.
Yeah. Now, how was your parents dealing with you? Were they supportive?
Well, I didn't come out at first to them. Probably 3 years, I think, after I realized who I was like, I I can't keep this anymore. And I still lived at home. So I wrote a letter to my mother and I addressed it to my mother and my father, and I put it in her purse and I went to work. And then I'm at work and my dad shows up at my job and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. Like, and I'm panicking as I'm working at this golf course. I'm pulling weeds up front, weeding out the flower beds. And I'm like, oh my God, my dad's going to kill me. But he was there to go to the pro shop. So I got lucky, but I come home and, my mom's still not home. And that fear just kills you because you're worried if you're going to be accepted. But at the end of the day, I come downstairs and my mom's there and we have this conversation and, we're crying. And she's like, I still love you. I accept you, but I don't understand it. But it was still a struggle. I mean, even into she passed away 13 years ago. And even on her deathbed, I said to her, I said, Mom, you and I have come a long way. And her words to me was, I think you pushed me a little too much. And my response was, I think I pushed you just enough. And, you're still fighting for that acceptance. And then after my mom passes away, now my dad finds out. They still live together. This was a secret my mom hid from my father for 10 years. And we all kept that secret because we didn't know how he was going to react. And at first, he didn't accept it. He was like, I'm not going to have a gay person in my house. And again, he eventually sort of warmed up to it. His friends, because my dad's 81, my parents had us late in life at 40. So it's a different generation. I'm 2 generations younger than I should have been for someone their age. And he had to have people his age telling him, it's not what it used to be. It's not what this is. And he's come around, but he still has difficulty of having that acceptance because he'll still say every once in a while, you should be married and you should have kids. And I have to tell him, you cannot put your wants or your thoughts into my life because I have a different life from you. I didn't ask for this, but this is the life I was given and I'm going to live it the best of my ability.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. So now I realized in your story, and you said you were Mr. Cleveland Leather. You won. What does that mean?
So I also ran for a leather title before I came a sister. We do have a saying, at least here in Cleveland, first you come out as a gay man, then you come out as a leather man, then you come out as a sister.
What is Leatherman about?
So back in, and again, I'm oh god, I could get botched. I might be killed if I get this wrong. But back in the days, the leather clubs were, clubs for the old Levi clubs. Because what I know of the Cleveland leather title is uh, David and his partner Greg. It was David Laws and Greg Amel. They created the Cleveland Leather contest and title to bring back the old sort of leather bars and Levi communities where you needed to have either Levi jeans to get into the bar, or you have to take your shirt off, or you have to be wearing leather. And part of that deals with the kink community, but you can't say that everyone that's into leather is into like a kink or a fetish because, the spectrum is very broad. So they started the Mr. Cleveland contest, and from that also spawned the largest leather convention. I think in the U.S., or it's the second largest. It's called CLAW, Cleveland Leather Annual Weekend. And what we do with the titles and the title holders is you do fundraising, and you fundraise for your community. So I helped bring back the title after it sort of died in 2009 and was resurrected in 2013. And then in 2019, I ran again to take the title back to the international stage, which is IML, which is held in Chicago in May.
What do you wait, James? When you say you run, like what do you have to do? Do you have to show what talent or speeches?
So yeah, well, talent not so much. They used to have a fantasy portion where you would sort of talk about maybe your what sexual fantasy you'd like, and a lot of us didn't like that because some of us aren't into that kink aspect, and we felt like you're limiting people who would actually want to do real good for your community but are afraid again of that sort of association. So they changed the contest to fit what IML does, and what these contests, and everyone is different, but what we do here in Cleveland is we have a speech, we have an introduction of who you are, we have a pecs and personality, kind of like a swimsuit edition if you were doing, like the Miss Universe. And then, it's funny questions and answers where you get two serious questions and a nice sort of lighthearted one to get to know who you are and a little bit more of your personality. And then whoever wins our contest can either go into IML, or I think it's North America. I can't think of the other one, but we are then a feeder for these other contests. But a big part of what you do is community fundraising. And so after I stepped down, I was approached by the sisters to say, hey, would you like to join us? Because I was still going to do fundraising, and it makes it easier for me to do it as a sister than as a Leatherman. And I'm not showing up other people who have come after me, and they get their time in the spotlight.
Wow, fascinating, fascinating. And then you said you're Mr. Leatherman in 2022, and you were the class in 44. What does that mean?
Oh, so my title was 2013, and then I reran in 2020, and then the pandemic hit.
Yes.
So nothing was going on during that. So our titles got extended a year. So I was then Mr. Cleveland 2020, 2021, and I was in the international Mr. Leather class of 44. We were class 44. And if Kenzo's ever listening to this, Kenzo 44. And we were there in 2022. So we got to walk on the international stage and, I got to represent Cleveland, which is something I've always wanted to do. And that was my goal for running again, was to bring Cleveland back to the international stage. We're more than just a mistake on the lake. That lake hasn't been on fire in years.
This month is the LGBTQ month. And how do you feel? Do you feel very special this month? And also, I have a question about: do you think America is caught up with this movement, if you will? How you feel about? Do you feel the progress? I'm saying in the last, say, 10, 15 years, how LGBTQ people being treated.
So someone had asked me at our Pride, well, what does Pride mean to you? And I said freedom, because we're still fighting for our freedom and our rights. And we've come a long way, but there's still a lot more work to do. And at first it was fighting just to not be arrested in bars and to be able to go out and be yourself. Then the fight for marriage equality finally came around, and we fought for that. But we're still dealing with these hurdles where now there's these anti-trans bills, the don't say gay bills in Florida, the book banning. I mean, and a lot of this, and I hate to sort of generalize, but it is coming from the very right conservative Catholics. And if you paid attention to history, this is exactly what Hitler did with banning of books and then locking people away and making things illegal. And that's where my fear comes from, is that if we're not progressing in the right way, we're going backwards. And I think that comes from fear. But if history tells us anything, we already know, if we continue going down this path, where it's going to lead us. And it's not going to lead anywhere good.
Very well said. And what about Cleveland compared to New York and San Francisco? Do you feel would you ever prefer to live in big city like New York and San Francisco versus in Cleveland? How do you feel about that?
Well, I went to New York for World Pride. We got to march with the original piece of the Gilbert Baker flag. So we got to march with him or with his group. He had passed away. And again, that's one of the most memorable experiences I have ever had. So I'm very honored to be able to be a part of that. But when I came to New York, the first thing I said as I drove in is, I'm never driving into New York again. I was already anxious, and, you guys are crazy the way you guys drive. I'm just saying, But I mean, everything is so big. I mean, just saying it's the Big Apple. And I'm like, oh yeah, in Cleveland, we got built. Oh yeah, we got a tall building over here. Yeah. No, I mean, New York is big. And coming from the Midwest, never being in New York, it was an absolute eye-opening experience. And I'm glad I had it, but I don't I don't need to go back. Big city life. I'm a suburb girl. I like being in the suburbs. I like having a house and a yard. You know, it- it's a little bit more like my pace, but it's nice to visit.
Nice. So, what about San Francisco? The same feeling? You feel too big too?
I've never been to San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not opposed. I mean, one day I'm sure I'll make the trek out there.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't like earthquakes.
Oh,
And I keep
yeah.
thinking the second I get out there, it's going to be the big one.
Yeah, yeah. So, now, what is your sort of routinely work for your community these days? Like, do you guys meet monthly, or like what exactly do you do? Tell us a little bit.
So what we do is we meet once a month and we have our regular membership meeting and our general membership. So, we go over the books, the finances, and everything else in the executive session. And then it's open for general membership. Anyone can be a sister, especially if you're here in Cleveland. If you've ever wanted to be a sister, reach out to us. We have a Facebook page, the Rock and Roll City Sisters. We are also at the Leather Stallion a lot. That's usually our home bar. If you're interested in joining our group, come down to the Leather Stallion and let us know you're interested. I am the mistress of novices. So if you are coming into the house, you will meet me. I will be your introductory guide. And, we will start the process.
Nice, nice. So, part of the sisters' persona is also to do entertainment showcase, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
So the sisters started, and a lot of it's like street theater. I guess our more entertainment comes from some of the acts that we might put on, or some of the shtick. Like in 2016, we went to the RNC when it was here in Cleveland, the Republican National Convention, and again back then, it was the beginning of the anti-trans movement, because they had every issue was about bathroom. What bathroom can you use? We don't want, men using women's restrooms. So that was the beginning of, angering up this base in the anti-trans fear. So we went down to the street on West 4th, where it was like the whole media center where everyone was set up. And we had bathroom passes. You know how when you go to the men's room or the women's room, it's got the little stick figure that says man or woman.
Mhm.
We had 100 of those made up, and we handed them out on lanyards to people who came up to us. And our abbess, nod your head and smile. She would be like, "Oh, you look like a woman. You look like you identify as a woman. Here's your pass," and would put them around their neck. I mean, people couldn't get enough of these things. I mean, we couldn't hold on to them fast enough. But that's the kind of sort of street theater that we'll do, where we will take an issue and we can take that issue on. We, as a nonprofit 501c3, cannot touch, politics, and we can't, and we can't endorse a political candidate, but we can take issues like women's reproductive rights. That's an issue that we can address and that we can talk about. So there are things that we can do. And these are one of the issues, again, with trans rights.
Very, very interesting what you do. Great work. Now, I went to a very, very educational, I would say, film actually last night. It's called Everybody. Every is one word, and then body. It's about uh it's about it's a documentary, and they told a story of three different persons, and from their childhood they were intersex. Have you heard of that?
Yes, but I'm blanking on the meaning at the moment.
Oh, intersex is like when they were born, they were recognized. Say you are a girl, because your part looks like a girl, but
Yes, 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 yes,
actually
yes, yes.
the girl actually had a scrotum inside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, that to me, that also reminds me of when, and maybe this is part of the same thing, when people, are born with both genders.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the doctor sometimes will just make the choice, of, oh well, there's not really, there's not really much of a penis, so we're gonna just make them a girl. When things like that happen with people who are born with both sexes, and someone makes the choice for them, instead of allowing them to grow up and make their own choice, that messes with people, because there are people who, again, they might identify as a female, you know, and yet that choice was taken away. So I always think in those situations, you should always wait and let the individual find out who they are.
Hmm.
But I know that people are also get scared, and they want to fit into normal society, and they want to try and make it easier for their child, because if you had a child that had two genders, you want to protect them. And some people might make a bad choice because you think you're protecting them now, but when they get older, now they have all these other issues, and it might have been easier, had you waited.
Yeah. Do you have any recommendation of an LGBT theme kind of a film you recommend? Are there any very educational and also entertaining point? Uh, any
I
good films out there?
I don't watch a lot of TV, but
Mhm.
the film that I came out to was called Get Real. It was, I think it was the British film.
Oh.
Again, anyone with an accent,
Mm.
oh, I'll just fall for you right now.
Mm.
But that film resonated to me when I was 18, and I
Mm.
I sought it out. I didn't know anything about the gay world, but I was watching a movie, and they had a trailer for this movie, and I didn't know what was telling me to have to watch it, but I did. And so that to me is the one of the best movies that I will ever say, is because that's how I found myself.
Now, part of parents, our generation above us, right? They get freaking out when their children tell them, I'm gay or lesbian, and they worry about they don't have they won't have their grandchild. So, as part of you, do you this kind of personal? Do you want to have children?
I've always said, if it came down to it, yeah, I would raise a child. I think I would be a good parental figure. I just don't know if it's in the cards. If I ever got a woman pregnant, I'm pro-choice, pro-life. To me, those are personal issues, and you shouldn't be coming. No one should be making a choice for you in your own life. You should be making that choice, and it's a family issue. Um, I think it's great when people adopt. I know people who have that are gay and have adopted, and there's so many children out there that aren't wanted and are discarded. So, for people who have a lot of that extra love that they want to give, I always say, you know what, adopt these children that need a home. But that to me is where the next fight's going to come from, is people trying to stop gay adoption, because you're going to be grooming. I mean, I worry about the future of people who are actually trying to do good, because people think that we're pushing an agenda, because we're pushing love, acceptance, and tolerance. And some people don't have that. They don't want it. And they're afraid of anyone that doesn't look like them. And we still have that bigotry today. And I think after 2016 of electing Donald Trump, these people feel emboldened to come out and pass this judgment on everyone, and I don't think they're going away.
Yeah. Do you ever had a situation that you go to look for a job and you're afraid that if you tell them you're gay, they may not accept you, or you're very lucky, everybody loves you?
People, trust me, there are people who do not love me. Um, well, I've been with the same job for 23 years.
Really?
So
Wow.
The first job I ever had was, working for the city that I live in. I work for the city of Solon. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that I work here. We are still trying to be progressive. We're still trying to have an understanding. Um, but I never came out when I was younger, just like I didn't tell, my father. I wasn't telling people at work. It wasn't until someone found my Facebook page. Uh, and then I get a call while I'm running the fitness department, and someone says, "Hey, come down and join me on my cigarette break." And I come down, and they tell me, they go, "Yeah, so and so found your Facebook page," and I instantly knew. I went, "Oh," and I said, the next word out of my mouth was, "Who knows?" And she said, "Everybody." And it was that one word of, they found this, what was on there, and again, I'm not hiding it from the world, but I
Yeah.
wasn't telling anyone.
Yeah.
And for people who, maybe they didn't know someone was gay, or again, it's like hot gossip. And
Yeah.
then it just ballooned. And at that point, I haven't been able to go back into the closet.
Mhm.
And being with the city for as long as I have, I now work in the service department, which
Uh-huh.
is very masculine oriented with, we have like 55 employees right now. And like, oh God, maybe 50 of them are men.
Uh-huh.
So, I still get things to this day of people sort of saying things or pushing their religious beliefs here and there.
Yeah.
So, I it's still a battle that we're constantly dealing with, and it
Mm.
comes down to acceptance. And
Yeah.
even me looking as a sister or going out and doing makeup, if someone sees it on my Facebook page, I'll get words at work, and they'll say something, and it's like they can't not comment,
Mhm.
because I think that there's this weird sort of curiosity that they do have, but then there's almost like this fear that, well, is this going to make me gay or sound gay? And then I have to get angry and butch it up. It's like, well, then ignore it. How hard is it to ignore things in your life? I
Mhm.
do it all the time.
Would you like me to share your Facebook underneath scrolling or not?
Oh, if you'd like.
Oh, okay. It goes like that. See?
Technology, I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
And you have a lot of followers. You have close to 5,000, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, some of them I'm sure are dead accounts now, and um, but when you become a title holder, people want to add you, and
Yeah.
they congratulate you, and they want to follow you, and again, that's that community support.
Yeah.
And then also as a sister, you have people who like to follow the sisters, and
Yeah.
then you get that sister support.
Yeah.
So but again, when it comes to acceptance, my family, they're not always very accepting. My sister would say, maybe you should tone down your Facebook, like,
Mm.
you're out there and like, there's a photo of you from like a leather event, and you're out there in a harness and a jock strap doing an auction or whatever, and you're doing a community fundraising event, but it's like, sex sells. And she's like, well, the family, and I'm like, I don't care about the family. They can unfriend me. You like, I'm not, like, this is my life. Either you accept me or you don't. I understand about decency. I'm not, you know, naked up there, but I'm still living my life. And I tell people that all the time.
Good for you. Good for you. So, yeah. And what do you want to see, like, if in 5 years? What do you want to see the society? What kind of thing, the progress you want to see?
Well, there's two things that come to mind. First one is trans rights and acceptance. I think that is absolutely important. And the other one isn't really for me, but it's women's rights, body autonomy. If we're going to hold women's, sexual organs hostage, then we should start doing it to men too. How many murders do men do when they're in their bathrooms or in their bedrooms at night? To me, it's absolutely insane to think that we're going to try and control someone because they're less than us. And it goes back to like slavery. No one's less than anyone. No one owns anyone. but yet we feel this need to have power and control over people. And that's what I hope we start moving away, we move away from that into a better society. But we'll see what happens in 5 years.
Are there statistics, in the world, I guess, or in United States, like what's the percentage of people who admit they are, LGBTQ? Do you know? Are there such statistics?
There is. I'm thinking it's between. I'm thinking now it's 8, but I think it's about 10. I think they say 1 in every 10 are gay. So, if we're going by that numbers, and I work with 50 guys, there's at least 5 more somewhere.
You mean one person out of 10 is gay?
I think that was the statistic that I
So
used to hear.
that's pretty. That's like 10%, isn't it? Yeah, that's a lot. So,
but again, the numbers change.
Yeah.
Like with talking about statistics, the statistics, you got people right now who are complaining that the trans community is coming out in droves, and that this wasn't around when I was a kid. Well, because it wasn't accepted, they didn't feel comfortable. And it's like the history of left-handed people. I love hearing about this, is because people were persecuted for being left-handed. But when they were allowed to be left-handed and it wasn't ridiculed, or I don't even know if it was illegal, but when they were allowed to be who they were, the numbers jumped up, and then it plateaued. It wasn't all these people suddenly saying, I'm going to be left-handed. They were the people there all along. And finally, once that wasn't a big deal, it leveled out. And what is it, like maybe 3% of people are left-handed in the
now
US?
lefties consider very smart nowadays. Yeah, it's like they're, what do you call? They're lefty, and they're very good with the math, or they're very logic thinking. That's what they say.
Is it proven, or is this like the running theory?
I don't know. Yeah, but it's like I have that thing. The people say to you, "Oh, you're a lefty. Oh, you're those smarty
Are
pants."
you left-handed?
I am not lefty. Yeah, but people would say, "Oh, so and so's lefty. Oh, that person's a smarty pants."
Well, you could lie and no one would know. I mean, if they're smart and you play the violin. I mean, you're very artistic. You're very smart. Just start saying you're left-handed.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So, now there's like 8-year-old boy, or bunch of young people out there. They're looking at you, and what would you tell them if they're in the situations they were not sure what they're gonna do? Should they come out? Should they not come out? And how would you advise younger generation what to do?
Well, if they're looking at me, I'd say, how's my makeup look first? But in all seriousness, I'd say be true to yourself. The problem that we have now with what's especially here in Ohio is I think they just passed a bill that says you if you're a child and you're in school, and I think you tell your counselor, they have the right to out you to your parents. They have to tell their parents. And I think that's very dangerous, because how I feel society is working, and these right-wing Republicans they're trying to stop people from being gay. They're trying to stop people from being visible. And they're trying to let their parents know, if you're 8 years old and you're gay and you tell your school counselor, I think I'm gay, and then they run and tell your parents and they're not okay with it. Well, then what's to stop them to try and throw you in a conversion camp? And it's trying to stop that information of, and I think this is the way they think, because there's so many gay things out there now, it's turning everyone gay. And it goes back to that statistic of left-handed people. We're already here. We're just going up on that scale until we plateau and find, again, it's just that number. People just have more courage to come out. And I always tell people, if you need to come out to someone that you can confide in, do it. Because if not telling someone is going to cause physical harm or, a life to someone, tell someone. Tell people you can trust. Find out who your friends are, who are going to have your back. But unfortunately, there's also times where people can't come out and they have to wait until they get away from their parents or their families before they can be who they really are. And that's really sad because some of those kids, they don't make it. And that's another thing I'd like to see stopped is, teenage suicide and suicide of the LGBT community.
Yeah, because they feel shameful, right? And they feel they're alienated. Is that alienated? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but again, we're also, if you're a very religious person and you come from a very religious background, that's true. You may feel those religious persecutions. But I think there's other families that, are not very religious, but they're very stubborn in their way and what they think is right. And it comes from ignorance of not understanding. I mean, I'll never understand what someone who is trans will ever know what it is to be. But I know, as being a gay man, I know I'm attracted to men, and it's just the way I am. I never asked to be that way. So I could put myself in someone else's shoes and saying, I can understand the logical thinking of, this is true to you because this is true to me. But you will never know exactly what someone else is truly going through. You can sympathize, but you'll never truly know because I'm not dealing with feeling I'm not in the right body. But for someone who does, I can imagine it's torture.
Do you have a lot of friends in Cleveland where you live and in your town? And are they mostly gay people, or do you have mixed of them? And can you guys like having fun together? Like I'm just not in that circle. Yeah.
So I in my actual hometown, I don't have like a lot of gay friends because not a lot of gay people like live here. But I also know a lot of people both in and out of the gay community, and some of them cross over. Um, so for me, like when I do game nights, I like to have parties and social gatherings, and I have gay, straight, bi people. Everyone comes over. I'll make a main dish. I make pizzas or something, and I tell everyone, "Hey, bring a side dish, bring a dessert, and BYOB if you drink." And we all get together and we do board games and we've done trivia, we've done Family Feud, we have like these big get-togethers. And that to me is the best part, is the diversity that I get to see, and that it's bringing people together that may not know what these communities are. Because if you're straight, why would you really come to the gay community? That's kind of where your life is. Maybe if you have a gay son, you might want to know and learn. Or if your sister's a lesbian, maybe you'll go out and you'll go out to the bars with her, and you'll get little bits and pieces of the culture. Or you've heard about drag bingo, so you want to go out to like, I don't know, Sunny's on Sunday, and you're going to go out and have mimosas, and Sparkles is up there doing her number. Things like that have helped broaden the gay community, especially with RuPaul, but also with that additional broadening and that reach. We've also gotten more pushback, and look what's happening with the drag community as well. They're being targeted because it's an easier transition for people to be able to pick up, and it's become mainstream. And again, the more visible we are, the more of a threat I think we become to some of those people who are concerned about their true traditional family values.
Thank you. Now you say your mom passed away.
Yes.
It was interesting yesterday. The film I saw, I told you everybody, and one character, real character, said something like, his mom and dad, they both sort of does not approval what what he or she's doing, and then she said, well, they're already all gone. What doesn't make any sense, right? They're gonna pass away anyway, so in other words, why struggle of try to keep secret or not doing the way he wants or she wants. So my point is, um if your mother still alive, and or children try to tell their parents. What I'm trying thinking is, what's the best way to tell, to share this news of their sexual um, orientation to their parents?
Well, I think you need to first kind of have an idea of your parents, maybe where they sit on some issues. Um, some parents know, some kids can't hide how fabulous they are,
Mhm.
but other ones, they have no idea. My mom had no idea, and I look all bubbly and fluid, and but when this comes off, you know, Bubbles as a character, I'm much more introverted and a little bit more subdued, and I'm not as flamboyant. So some people don't know, and the scariest part about coming out is, will my family accept me? And even knowing that my dad is older and he still struggles, I still want that acceptance. Now, some people have written their parents off because they were nasty and absolutely horrible, and they still are dealing with scars that are left from their own families. And I still think that that plays a role on people. I mean, the way that our families, there's still blood, as much as we like to say, I just don't care. I still think people do in some degree. It just depends on how much of that are you going to let affect your life. That's why we say in our community, we have our family by blood and then our chosen family, the ones that we choose, the ones that are our family that will be there for us through, thick and thin, and will have our backs, and we can call them and we know they'll be there. And maybe it's even dealing on gay related things where my parents will not, they will not be there. They won't deal with it, but these other people will, because they're my chosen family. They will accept me no matter what.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you have any skit you can do to us? Like you can show us?
A
Like
skit.
yeah. What do you do with your makeup? And
Oh,
I can make us a little bit wider shot. Do you have anything so I can get off my I'll give you a whole screen.
well, I don't really have much of a skit, but I can go through some of my buttons.
Okay, whatever you do. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna give you whole screen. Okay.
So I'm going to lower the camera a little bit.
Okay.
So I'll talk about the mirror. So one of the founding sisters, um, Sister Mish, started wearing a mirror, and she said she wore it because she was the reflection of her community. And we really liked that. So we started putting big mirrors on our bibs, because we are the reflection of the community. When you look at me, I'm looking back at you. And I like to be able to represent my community. This pin here was given to me by David Reed, who passed away. He was one of my title brothers. He was Mr. Cleveland 2017. This was given to him by his former partner, who passed away. And then he was given uh, this pin. And then he gave it to me when he found out he had prostate cancer. He goes, I'm not going to need it anymore. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of use out of it. So I do tell people I am the semen distribution specialist. And I am, this is one of our, so look at, we're doing on the camera. This is our house pin, and my name badge. And then of course I am a Sailor Moon fan. So I had to get Sailor Moon in bondage, and over here, Jessica Rabbit. And you can't not have the nun in bondage. So, my bib is sort of a revolving piece of just different pins. This one was from Mr. International Rubber. Oh, that man was so hot. And I'm like, I need to have your pin. Even though I'm not into rubber, I'm like, I will buy your pin. And he sent it to me, I think from Germany. So I was like, yes, please.
That's funny. Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah. So you it take you 1 hour to put the makeup on, and
Yes.
then does it affecting your skin, like Well, how do you treat your skin? Do you do this often?
I I haven't. This is the most I've done face between benefit on Friday and then today, and then we're doing bingo at the campground on Sunday. So this is going to be the most I've done face consecutively in years. It does, when you put the powder on and the setting powder and you hairspray it to make sure nothing moves. It does get dry. It's dry to the skin. So to when you I've got very oily skin, so it does help. It doesn't dry me out as much. But we like to use this thing called Abilene. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it helps just wet everything. And when you just wipe it off, you can just wipe things off. So Abilene helps take off all of the face paint, and
Mm.
it helps. I mean, skincare is important. You have to make sure you're taking care of yourself and staying hydrated too, especially if you're out in the sun. I remember
Mhm.
when we've been out in Prides, we've gotten sunburned everywhere except for our faces because it was the most coated.
Do you or your community like you have a special diet like does, I was just wondering if you are more health conscious than other group of people.
If I see food, I eat food. I ain't saying no to food. Fish or anything that lives in water, I will not touch. um,
Oh.
yeah, I'm not a fish person, and that's not a pun or an innuendo. I just I have a slight reaction to some things,
Mm.
and it just doesn't taste good to me. But I do stick to like chicken. Chicken's probably the thing I'll eat the most, and I like a lot of salads. So, I'll have salads more times than not. I remember leaving the bar and going to like, one of them 24-hour diners. And I'm the only one ordering a salad while everyone's ordering like pancakes and sausage and all that. I'm like, can I just have can I have a salad with Thousand Island? They look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, I want a salad.
Now, what is you? I know you have a hobby. Tell us a little bit about because you kind of a. I know you have like lots of equipment going on.
So I got a couple little hobbies. I do woodworking. So the cabinet here I've restored, and the corner cabinet I restored. So I like to do woodworking. I like to play with wood. And the other thing is I'm a gamer, so I am a big Nintendo fan. I always have been. So I've got my video game kind of collection that I've collected ever since I was a kid. I still have every, system from my Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, 64, GameCube. I just saved it and collected it. And I just sort of finally, like 2 years ago during the pandemic, I said, you know what? I'm just going to make a game room. And so this is like my sanctuary of nerdiness.
Nice, nice little playroom, nerdy playroom. Okay, well, I was wondering if our audience have any questions, and I want to thank you. Mark is here, and we have Toadily. I don't know how to pronounce. Maybe he's your friend. Uh, and we have Lewis was here. Yeah, some other people were here. So thank you for being with us. Now, yeah, would you like to do a before we end? I usually do a what do you call rapid fire with
Oh,
my guest. So I'll
okay.
ask one small, quick question and
Okay.
answer it very quick. It's kind of just a game.
Okay.
Before I do a rapid fire, so do you have anything else you wanted to touch about it? We haven't talked about it all, last word from you.
Hmm. I Okay, I'll say this. Before you judge, or before you judge the sisters, because uh, this is what I just dealt with locally with our Pride event. We couldn't have the sisters speak because people who are very, religious think the sisters are satanic or mocking Christianity. Um, it couldn't be further from the truth. How some people react or what some people do are not a reflection as a whole. You can't hold everyone to that standard that everyone's alike. And the work that we do in the community work, It comes from a place of caring. And even though we take elements of a nun, a, a bib, a veil, those of us who have had the pleasure and the privilege of being a sister, we take a vow. And we take a vow to spreading joy and helping those that need it. And when we do this, we do it like anyone who would be in, the clergy when they are having. I say this was a calling, and in my eyes, this was a calling from God, or whatever faith it needs to be. But I'm here and I'm doing what I'm supposed to, because I had this calling to do so, and I take it very seriously. And I never mock anyone openly or intentionally, and I don't go after anyone's religion or race. And I would hate to think that someone would think that the sisters were truly out to just make fun of people's faith. We may make mockeries of things, and we may pull from some of the hypocrisy that we see, but it's never from hatred or keeping someone down. And we're always open for conversations.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's do rapid fire before I do that. And I want to thank you, James, for being with me.
Well, thank
And
you.
yeah, thank you. And I want to also thank Johnny who introduced me to you. Johnny Wu.
The Woo crew.
Yeah. Johnny Wu is a filmmaker friend of mine. And yeah, I do this.
Johnny, anytime you need me for any of your films, I'm ready.
Yes, Johnny, did you hear that? So yeah, I do
Do a
this.
documentary of the sisters, Johnny.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. Yeah. Every Wednesday, 5 p.m., I do this live interview on my channel. And this is, please look at my channel if you like it. Please subscribe, Juhl Media. And what else? I made a film. My latest work is called My Yangon Diary. It's Tubi for free to watch, or you can spend $2. You can watch it on Amazon Prime. So check that out. It's in my description below. So, all right, let's do rapid fire.
Let's go.
All right. Favorite color?
Red.
Favorite junk food?
Pizza.
That's not junk food.
I don't eat a lot of candy. Sour candy.
If you won a lottery of 25 million, what would you do with the money?
Tiny house, get a nice piece of land and start a tiny house community. And and then I would do ways of being able to try and work with affordable housing with like vets and people, poor people and people with mental disabilities, and starting little tiny house communities and helping them to get back off the street and bettering themselves. That's always something I've thought about doing.
Awesome. If you have a chance of having dinner with 3 persons separately, who would you invite?
Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch. I always say Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch. He is just so handsome. Who else? Oh, Lady Gaga. I just find her very interesting. Oh, and who would my last one? This might be weird, but I think Bruce Ismay from the Titanic, who lost his life on the Titanic. I've been fascinated with that ship, and I think that would have been a very interesting conversation.
Interesting. I like Lady Gaga too. She has an incredible voice.
She's very talented.
Yeah, very, very. And also she has this rebellion kind of a thing in her bone, right? She does things and she doesn't.
But you cannot argue with her talent.
Yeah.
And she's classically trained. And when she first came out, so many people were like against her, but that's judging a book by its cover. But look where she's come, and look at her acceptance. And even she's changed and adapted, but she still knows where she came from.
Yeah. When you talk about Titanic, that's kind of a little bit sad question. How was your reaction to the vessel went down?
I feel horrible for the young man who didn't want to be on there. He went to be on that ship, with his father as a bonding experience, and he had an absolute horrible feeling about that. And I really believe in gut feelings, and I feel absolutely horrible for that young man, and I hope no one suffered. But I also think that that whole experience, it's showing us what the arrogance of money is, because you didn't have regulations, you had no industry standard. I mean, if you want to be an entrepreneur and make money, I'm not going to tell you no. If just Jeff Bezos want to send people to space and he wants to make money off of it, fine. You know what, you're allowed to have these abilities to make these businesses. But if you're going to put other people's lives at stake, don't cut corners. Don't put people's lives at stake because you're in a hurry or a rush, or you're just trying to get a cash grab. I mean, that's what happened to the Titanic. Was money and arrogance sank the ship. And in a way, that's also what happened to that sub. It's a tragic irony. And it's like history. If you're not going to learn from it, you're going to repeat it.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you traveled overseas? If you have, which place you really like?
I have not, but I want to see London.
London.
I feel like I had a past life, but it's more than London. I want to see all of England. I want to see the country. I want to see the cities. I also want to see Ireland. And I'd also like to. I think I'd like to see Italy. Oh, pasta. I'm there. I want to go for the food. I'd like to travel, but I don't like to fly. That's my problem. Afraid. I'm afraid of death, which is my biggest fear. But I'd rather. But again, it's not flying that I have the
Mhm.
problem with. It's plummeting.
Mm.
And you want to be flying in a plane. You don't want to be plummeting.
That's funny. What else? Yeah. What do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, what I hope is that I can find a partner in my life that is going to be able to make me better. Um, I mean, it's hard to find people you connect with, especially if you're very outgoing and you're very ambitious, because I don't stop and I need someone to be able to keep up with me. And finding that connection with someone who gets the way I think and understands me is very hard. But that's kind of what I'm hoping for. I think what everyone hopes for is love and companionship. And that's the one thing that I really would like to be able to find is that companionship.
Thank you. Thank you so much, James. So well said. Yes. So, yeah, we're going to end this session. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. I am so glad I got to do this with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody who are watching us, listening to us, and making comments or making comments in your end. And I would love to hear you can make some comments in the YouTube channel below. So, yeah. And
We'll have to do this again sometime.
yes, we'll do it again. Yeah. Thank you so much. I love
Thank you.
the painting and everything. Thank you
Oh,
so much
thank
for
you.
so much work. Great.
It's more than just the face paint. It's about the work. No matter what they say, the work is what matters in the end. So you better work, girls.
That's true. That's true. All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We're going
Bye,
to end
everyone.
this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to end the broadcast. Bye now.